Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, as always, I want to start off with give all honor, glory, infinite praise, and worship to our power. YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHAM, HAQADASH. Double honors to our apostles, our elders, the great millstone who reveal, teacher, and sound doctrine. Strong shalom to the hopeful elect, and the rest of the large multitude of men, women, and children. That the Lord will have mercy on these last days. As your brother HAQADASH representing Jim as Branch Cleveland, Lord willing to bring out an edifying lesson. All right, title is First Fruits Reflection of Yahawashi. All right, because as I was reading, all right, the inspiration comes from Revelations 14. All right, and I started, to dive into the first couple verses, like meditate on them heavy. And I have a book here, right? What I can do is let me do this. All right, show the book. The book is Manners and Customs of Bible Land, all right, by Fred H. White. Okay, now it's two versions of this book. All right, it's two versions, and this book, this is probably the better one. The one where it's a little picture work in here, but it's mainly just words. All right, it's a little bit more thorough with the detail. Now I want to read some of these excerpts in this book because it's very, very, very beautiful how Yahawashi and his parables, when he talks about the vineyard, okay, and the husbandman, and all right, the grapes and the wine press, and the different analogies and parables that he used to correlate with things that you can relate to in the world so you can understand. But at the same time, he would talk in parables where you wouldn't be able to understand. Okay, if that makes sense. Okay, because what I want to do is let me read Revelations. This is Revelations chapter 14 and verse 1. It says, "And I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads." Now, keep in mind, one of the excerpts above the chapter verse, you know how they have the little examples of what they highlight the chapter. One of the highlights is it says the vintage and wine press of the wrath of the Most High. Now, what you realize is, as you read from verse 1 and you read all the way through verse 20, it's talking about a wine press. It's talking about a vineyard. Okay? It's talking about a vineyard. But let's see why some of the things that are said in this particular chapter is so eloquently put. Okay? So continuing. So the topic is the 144,000, the elect, the governing body, men that Yahweh, BAHASHAM, Yahawashi has chosen, all right, that first fruits, okay, the ones that are likened unto Yahawashi, and the ones that it says talk about the HALALYAM in Genesis 1, created everything we see here today, and they're going to be the first fruit of righteousness in the kingdom, and then all Israel will come through them. Okay, now continuing Revelation 14 and 2, and I heard a voice from heaven as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with the harps. Now, this is very important, okay? Because remember, the context is a vineyard. Now, this is so beautifully, right? Because it's multifold in this chapter. It says, "And I heard a voice from heaven as the voice of many waters, and as the voice of great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with the harps. And they sung as it were a new song before the throne." Now, what we're going to find out is, because we always go into this chapter and we bring out, because the Song of Moses, right, which is what the Song of Deliverance that you can go to in Genesis. Not Genesis, like Exodus 15. All right, the Song of Deliverance when we came out of Egypt the first time. All right, and then we're going to come out of Egypt again spiritually, which is the spiritual Egypt. All right, the second time. All right, so the elect is singing that new song, that song of deliverance, that song of salvation, right? But it also goes into, as I'm about to bring out through the Spirit, Lord willing, is edifying. It says again, and they sung as it were a new song before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders, and no man could learn that song, but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. Okay, so this song that's being spoken is again that salvation, right? Now, also, what I want to go into, let me just read the verse all the way down to 5, and I'm gonna go into this. In the beginning, I showed the name of the book for those shalom to everybody tuning in later on. But the book I showed earlier, a couple minutes ago, was Manners and Customs of Bible Lands by Fred H. White. All right, I showed the yellow version, which is just mainly words. Okay, it's less pictures. It's two versions. So the other one, it has a lot more pictures in it. But this one's a little bit better. Um, Now I'm gonna read verse 4 and 5, and then I'm gonna read this excerpt. I mean, in this insert or this passage from that book I just referenced. This is and then I'm gonna jump back up to verse 3. Okay, but let me just read it through real quick. It says in Revelation 14:4, these are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits of the Most High, unto the Most High, and to the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne. Okay, so now let me go to this. Let me go to this. All right. Now this is Bible. This is again Manners and Customs of Bible Land. And we're gonna go to page. I got certain points highlighted. All right. So I'm gonna just read my highlighted parts, so you can read it on your own. You know what I'm saying? This is page 190. It says one thing that I did highlight on page 190 was that it says much of the Palestine's land has had these rocks present, and they must be laboriously moved in preparation for a crop of grapes. So what you're gonna find out is that when you're planting a vineyard, all right, in order to keep the the ground moisture, the moisture in the ground, it will be small pebbles or small rocks, all right, embedded in the ground, and then what you will have to remove the larger rocks, the bigger rocks, so that the vine can grow and spread throughout the vineyard. All right, so it won't block the pores. Okay, but smaller rocks were kept, and that's why it says, and they must be laboriously moved in preparation for a crop of grapes. All right, and you can read more of that on that page. And then jump to page 191. It says the title is Planting of the Grapevines. I'm gonna go just to the part that I highlighted. It says, although the slips are usually planted close together, they are sometimes set about 12 feet apart in order to give plenty of space for the branches to run. And that's another spiritual indicator, 12 feet apart. Now I'm gonna jump to page 192. Again, I'm just jumping to the highlighted points. I just want this to be quick and brief. On this late night, it says care of a vineyard, right? So you also must tend to the vineyard, because it was also spiritually about being a watchman. Not only were we watchmen for when danger was approaching the city. Yahawashi also, what Jake fella realizes, that he also set watchmen up for to watch the vineyard. You see, to watch the vineyard, because you will have a watchtower, or what they would call a booth, in the middle of the vineyard. Okay, you will have a booth in the middle of the vineyard, which you will have to tend to. So whoever was watching, they would, matter of fact, they sometimes, if they have families, you know what I'm saying, whoever was watching the vineyard, the reason why you watch the vineyard is because you watch the vineyard for thieves and robbers and things that may corrupt the vineyard, and corrupt the fruit that was growing in the vineyard. So the watchtower was set up in the middle of it to keep watch over the vineyard. You see what I'm saying? From animals and different things. Okay, from attacking the vineyard for their own will. I mean, for their own means. So you will have a watchtower, but whoever was watching and say they had a family, they would spend all summer sleeping in the watchtower to watch the vineyard, man. All right. And their families will be there too. Okay. So it's also too, we're watching the vineyard. Okay. We're tending to the vineyard of Yahawashi, Yahawashi, because Yahawashi says that in Matthew, what's that? He talk about what's that? Matthew 20. Okay. All right, about the laborers. Okay. He goes into Matthew 20. You know what I'm saying? When he talk about the laborers, he went into the marketplace, and he, because what you're gonna find out as you read in this book, Bible Manners and Customs, it talks about the bigger the vineyard, the more people you need working. So that's what Yahawashi did. He went out and found laborers, okay, to tend to the vineyard, okay, because the vineyard is wider now. Because what you're gonna find out when you read later down in this chapter, Revelations 14, you find out that the harvest is the earth, okay, the whole entire earth, because you have the elect scattered, all right, to the four corners of the earth. You see what I'm saying? You have elect men all over the earth, so the whole earth is the harvest, okay. So Yahawashi had gathered men to go out there and work and labor, and that's why he talks about in Acts 1 that, and then in Matthew and different books, how we were going to go to the four corners of the earth and we were going to preach the gospel to the four corners of the earth, because we had to get those laborers, we had to get those workers to tend to the vineyard, okay, because the whole harvest, the whole earth is the harvest. Now, when you continue, let's go to now back into the manners and customs of Bible lands. Yeah, this is 192. It says, I highlighted, like I said, I'm just reading those parts. It says, I went by the field of the slothful and by the vineyard of the man void of understanding, and lo, it was all grown over with thorns, and nettles had covered the face thereof, and the stone wall thereof was broken down. The sluggard failed to keep his vineyard wall in repair, and he failed to keep his growing vines free of thorns and weeds. Because when you go to let me hold that real quick. You link this up with Isaiah 5, okay? Because remember the parable that Yahawashi was talking to the wicked scribes and Pharisees, right? About the husbandman, how they don't tend to the vineyard. Okay, they are the thorns and thistles. They corrupt the vineyard, right? Real quick, let me go to Isaiah 5 and just I wasn't planning on getting this, but it's the spirit. I was just gonna briefly mention it, but when you go to Matthew 5, because it says this excerpt and on page 192 of Manners and Customs of Bible Land, it says the sluggard failed to keep his vineyard wall in repair, and he failed to keep his growing vines free of thorns and weeds. These two activities are absolutely necessary, right? So you again, when you tend to the vineyard, when you're watching, your job is to you know what I'm saying, tend to the vineyard, meaning you're not allowing weeds and thorns, okay, to corrupt the vineyard and choke the vine, okay. The weeds, you don't want the weeds to choke the vine, or you don't want the weeds to corrupt the vineyard, because why? You have fruit growing, okay, and therefore if the fruit does not grow, we cannot eat. You see what I'm saying? So, and Yahawashi is big on eating the fruit, the proper doctrine. Okay, when you go to Isaiah 5 and 1, it says, now will I sing to my well beloved a song of my beloved touching his vineyard. Now it keeps talking about singing and singing and things, different things like that, because I'm gonna bring out next on why that's so important and why it's referenced according, like it keep being linked up with the vineyard. But let me keep going. It says, my well beloved have a vineyard in a very fruitful hill, and he fenced it, right? Because Yahweh fenced it, because Lord willing, I'm about to I have on deck and Lord willing I could get it though. You know how the spirit is. First Corinthians, man. Okay, First Corinthians, and Micah 7. But let me keep going. It says, and he fenced it and gathered out the stones thereof and planted it with the choicest vine and built a tower in the midst of it. That's that watchtower I was talking about, because it's always a watchtower in the midst of it, and also made a wine press therein. And he looked that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, judge, I pray you, betwixt me and my vineyard. What could have been done more to my vineyard that I have not done in it? Wherefore, when I looked that it should bring forth grapes, it brought forth wild grapes, right? Thorns and thistles, different doctrines and philosophies, which choke the truth. You see, all right. And then it was a period of time where we were without this knowledge. You know what I'm saying? And Yahawashi opened our eyes again. Okay. It says, it says, and 5, and now go to, I will tell you what I would do to my vineyard, right? I will take away the hedge. So now when you go into it's something called a terrace, I believe, like a terrace, like a it's like terrace, TERR, like ACE, which is a terrace. When you go into it, it's like a trench, or like a fence. Uh, how can you put it? Like a man, I'm trying to, you know what I'm saying, give the best. But anyways, the Lord, um, um, Salakia. I don't want to confuse you, but really, because when you go into it, it goes into like a place of walking. But um I don't want to cause some confusion. So what the Lord did was, he, remember, because he put a hedge around us, but what he did was he took the hedge away from us. Okay, he took the protection away. So when you they would build a fence around the vineyard. Okay, it was really important to build a fence around the vineyard again. And then you had the watchtower in the middle, so the fence was the first guard. And you know what I'm saying. So when Yahweh Basham Yahushua took the fence around from away from us, the hedge, his protection, it allowed intruders. It allowed invaders from all walks of life to invade us. Okay, on every level. All right, and then because we're invaded now, we have no. Eventually, the watchtower gets taken over. So then, when the watchtower is taken over, you have no one now to watch over the vineyard. All right, the grapes, the cluster, right, which now allows thorns and thistles, which really it started within the inside of the vineyard, but now even more, it's spread like a wildfire. Okay, and now the vineyard is overtaken. And now it says, continue, it says, and now go to, I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the hedge thereof, and it shall be eaten up. You see? So if there's no fence, now animals can come in and eat the grapes and eat everything that's planted in the vineyard, and break down the wall thereof, the watchtower, and it shall be trodden down. And I will lay it waste, it shall not be pruned. And that's very important when you go into being pruned. So when what is it, the grapevines, right, when the grapevines were pruned, you also, that's spiritual too, because when you do your research on it, it talks about pruning the grapevine into 12 buds. Spiritual, right? You think about the 12 manners of fruit, you know what I'm saying? All right, in Revelation 20, what's that, 22, right? But it's pruned into 12 buds, which allows the you know what I'm saying, would further the process of the grapes being made into fruition, being what I mean by that, being matured. Okay, now and when you go into that word mature, it ultimately goes into what? Ripe. Okay, which again, Revelations 14, which is why when you continue to read down, it talks about for the harvest of the earth is ripe. Okay, because ultimately the elect is sealed. All right, that cluster, that grape that the Lord left to Himself is mature now. Now he can thrust in that sucker and pluck them up and gather them for Himself. Continuing, it says in Isaiah 5 and 6, and I will lay it waste, it shall not be pruned nor digged, but there shall come up briars and thorns. I will also command the clouds that they rain, no rain upon it, for the vineyard of the Lord of hosts is his name. I mean, slacking. For the vineyard of the Lord, Yahawashi of armies, is the house of Israel. And it's telling you, it's giving you the breakdown of vineyard is Israel. And the men of Judah in his pleasant plant. And he looked for judgment, but behold, oppression, for righteousness, but behold, a cry. Okay, so, right. So I just wanted to bring that out because I had mentioned it. Now, going back to the manners and customs, Shalom, Akim, Yahawashi, Shabbat for the brothers and sisters in the Aqua tuning in. Continue now, and that's that part I read about the weeds and everything. Now, when you jump down in the next chapter on the same page, 192 in the manners and customs of Bible lands, it says pruning of the grapevines. Before the arrival of springtime, the keeper of the vineyard prunes off every superficial branch, every branch that is sickly or feeble. And that's what Yahawashi is coming to do. He's coming to what? He's coming to cut off those sickly branches. He's coming to cut off those sickly branches, which is the elect, which Salaki, that's Satan, which are, well, Israel is also the elect, and you have the elect within the elect. But he's coming to cut off the sickly branches, which are the 2/3 of our nation. It says, so or feeble, so that the sap may flow into the healthy ones that will bear fruit. Hence, the title, "The First Fruits," are the reflection or a reflection of Yahawashi, because it's going to say that in 1 Corinthians. It says, "Now the healthy ones are the elect." It says, "The branch that is located nearest the trunk or root usually bears the most grapes." Right. So real quick, I'm gonna go back to this Revelations 14 because I want to start back up at 3. But let me get a precept in John. You already know where I'm going. This is St. John chapter 15 and 1, because it just said the branch that is located nearest the trunk or root usually bears the most grapes. Now I had to read all that leading up to this so you can understand the importance of a vineyard and how Yahawashi always referenced the vineyard, even in judgment, Isaiah 63 and so forth, man. The wine press and long, he makes many references when it comes to and it pertains to the vineyard. Okay. Now, when you go back to when you go to St. John 15, remember it just said one more time. It says the branch that is located nearest the trunk or the root. What does the scripture say? He's the root and the offspring of Dawadah, right? He's the roots, okay? And the elect are close unto him, which means they are what? They are the healthiest, okay? They're the healthiest, okay? They bear the most fruit, okay? They do the work. You know what I mean? It says, St. John 15, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman." Now, this is also important because matter of fact, man, let me get this real quick. Let me get this precept real quick, because this is important too, because I want to, before I finish that John's, Lord willing, it may be like I'm all over the place, but I'm not. This is 1 Corinthians 15. Like Apostle Tar said, that's all right. That's all right. This is 1 Corinthians 15, and let's start at 20. Yeah. 1 Corinthians 15 and 20, it says, "But now is Hamashiach risen from the dead and become the first fruits of them that slept." Right. So Yahawashi, what he did was, when you go to Hebrews 2, it said it behooved him to be made like his brethren, right? So that he could be made a faithful and merciful high priest, Hebrews 2 and 17. Or you could really start up, but the point is in 17 was 18 verses, but the point is it's in 17, I believe. So it says, "But now is Hamashiach risen from the dead and become the first fruits of them that slept." So he's the first fruit, meaning the first of his kind to do what he did. And then now that's why the elect are doing what Yahawashi did. They have one physically, all right, and mentally risen from the dead. Okay. Well, I'm gonna say mentally, right? Because we were asleep for a period of time, and now we received this truth. All right, Lord willing, part of that number. And you're also going to have the physical elect members rising from the dead. Those that have died in Hamashiach should be risen first. Okay, and then also, again, like I mentioned, mentally, the concepts and the philosophies and doctrines and the ways of this beast system. Okay, because when you obtain to that way, you are asleep, you are dead. So Yahawashi conquered that concept, all right, of being overtaken by the flesh, because that is death. It says, but now Hamashiach risen from the dead and become the first fruit of them that slept. For since by man came death, you see, by man come also the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all die, even so in Hamashiach shall all be made alive. But every man in his own order. See, because when you're talking about the order, it says Hamashiach the first fruits. Afterward, they that are Hamashiach. at his coming. You see, and that right there shows you that it's the elect are aligned, like Romans 8, all right, the joint heirs with Yahawashi, the first fruit of the cluster that the Lord requires, the first fruit of its kind. Now, real quick, let me jump back to the St. John 15, just real quick. It says, I am the true vine, and my father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. And every branch, we just read it in Isaiah 5. Okay. As a nation, we was in this position. Okay, for the sake of prophecy, of course. And every branch that beareth fruit, and beareth, so like, I'm gonna start it too again. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away. Every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Right, because a purge is a correction. All right, or it meaning heat is brought to it, which is the Lord is going to purge the earth, purge Babylon, and purge different parts of the earth. Meaning what? He's going to bring fire to it, to purge it, to cleanse it, to clear, um, to make it beautiful. Okay, we are being purged right now so that we won't have to take place of that physical purge, which is that lake of fire. We're sacrificing right now. We're being purged right now. We're being dipped in that fire now, being purged of our uncleanness. All right, that's the reason for a purge. Okay, to get rid of the things that are acting as a virus. Okay, because we read, remember in the manners and custom book, we read about the thorns and the thistles and the weeds that are born inside the vineyard. Okay, when those things are in the vineyard, again, we read about how the watchtower will be taken down and so forth, man. Okay, so going back, it says, now you are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me and in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself except it abide in the vine. No more can ye except ye abide in me. I am the vine, ye are the branches. We just read again, going back to the manners and customs, says the branch that is located nearest the trunk or root, Yahawashi, usually bears the most grapes. It says, I am the vine, you are the branches, he that abideth in me, I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit, for without me ye can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered. And men, right? Because when you cut something, like if you cut your toenail or fingernail from the body, over time, 2 or 3 days later, you go back to that same toenail, it's going to be hard because it's no longer attached to the body. Now it's dead. You see, and then eventually, the longer it stay attached from the body, it eventually becomes so hard that if you take your fingernail and you bend it, it turns to dust. Okay, it returns back to its form. Now that's what happens with the when you're not connected to Yahweh Shai. When he cuts you off, eventually you're not connected to life anymore. You're no longer, that blood is not flowing in you. That living water is not flowing in you. So eventually you're going to be withered away. Okay. Or you're going to turn to dust. It says, it says, uh, he that abideth in me and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me you can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and wither, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. Right. So again, when you go back to Revelations 14, it says, and they sung as it were a new song before the throne. Remember, it's multifold, dealing with the song of salvation, which is the song of Moses when we first got delivered, and we're about to be delivered again, Lord willing. And it says, they sung a song. So I'm gonna go back to this manners and customs on page 193, harvesting of grapes. It says the vintage begins in the month of September in the Holy Land, and at this period from ancient times, that the inhabitants of many a village move out to the vineyards where they live in tents or lodges. Remember, I talked about the families. Like if the man was watching, sometimes if he had family, he will take his whole family. But outside of that, also, it was a joyous thing for our people to gather grapes in the vineyard when the harvest was ripe. Everybody was sing songs of praise, and they would gather the grapes. Okay. Now, when you jump down to another highlighted part in that same um, paragraph, it says Isaiah predicts judgment as being a time when there should be no singing in the vineyards, Thus the gathering of the grapes into the baskets was done with great joy and much singing. Whole families enter into the happiness of this harvest time. That's why, again, the only ones that's singing right now that song is the elect of praises of joy, because they're in the midst of the vineyard, and they're in a sense gathering the grapes. Okay, gathering the elect. Okay, putting that late, they doing that work. You know what I'm saying? They're gathering, putting the grapes in the basket, singing songs and praises to Yahawashi, man. That's what the elect is doing right now in the midst of the vineyard, man, or the harvest. It says, thus the gathering of the grapes into the baskets was done with great joy and much singing. Right, when you go into because they had mentioned about the you talking about Isaiah. Let me grab that real quick because that's a nice precept. Isaiah 16, because it talked about there would be no singing, and that's what you see with the rest of the world. This is Isaiah 16, and I'm gonna start at 9. It says, therefore I will bewail with the weeping of Jazar, and the vine of Sibmah. I will water thee with my tears, O Heshbon and Eliah. Eliah, for the shouting, I butchered that. For the shouting for thy summer fruits and for thy harvest is fallen, and gladness is taken away, and joy out of the plentiful field. And in the vineyards there shall be no singing, neither shall there be shouting. Woo! Right, because when this time when Yahawashi comes to, because really we're preparing a way in a sense for Yahawashi, because when he come to gather his grapes, when he come to put the grapes in the basket, the people are not going to be rejoicing. You know what Revelation 16 say? They're going to be blaspheming him for the pains and the sorrows that he's going to bring upon them. So the people are not going to be rejoicing. The Lord is taking away the singing of the gathering this time. Only the ones that's going to be rejoicing is his elect, the first fruit, because they're a reflection of him. It says, and in the vineyards there shall be no singing, neither shall there be shouting. The treaders shall tread out no wine in their presses. I have made their vintage shouting to cease. So that's a beautiful excerpt from this book. And then when you flip to the next page and on songs, I mean, not songs, but manners and customs of Bible lands, page 194 says, I just highlighted one little part. There's other things you can read in here that's good too, but I'm gonna just read this little part. It says, the work of treading the grapes was customarily accompanied by shouts and songs of happiness. So right, so the Lord is coming to, you're gonna find out because it talks about Isaiah 33 and 14 that fearfulness have surprised the hypocrites. All right, because they're not gonna be joys in that time. They're not gonna be shouting with and giving praises to Yahweh Shah when he comes to gather the grapes, all right, of his cluster, man. Okay. All right, so Revelations 14 and Revelations 14 and 3 again, and they sung as it were a new song before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders, and no man could learn that song, because when you go to Psalms 40, and I'm gonna get like 3 more, and then we're gonna close out Psalms 40, and starting at the top, it says, a Psalm of David, I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined unto me and heard my cry. And he brought me up also out of an horrible pit. See, the people not crying, they're not crying right now. We're crying because another man is trying to besiege us, man. He's trying to lay hold on us so we don't get the same punishment as him, Lord willing. So we're crying right now so that we can laugh later. See, they're laughing now, but they're gonna cry later. All right. It says, he brought me up also out of an horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock. Remember, I talked about those small pebble rocks that you have to have in the vineyard in order to keep moisture inside of the vineyard. Okay. It says, and he set my feet upon a rock and established my goings. Also, that rock being Yahawashi, that foundation, because we brought that out at camp talking about those pillars. I had mentioned those pillars, right? When you go into Revelations 3, and he said, I will make you a pillar in the house of my power. Okay. The elect is talking about that pillar is what upholds the building. What building is the pillars the elect upholding? They're upholding the house of David. Okay. They upholding the house of David, but like Big Ox said, you know what I'm saying? Elder brother said, he said, hey, yeah, inserted that beautiful point, and which is them pillars. Yeah, the pillars uphold it, but it starts with the foundation, because even the pillars have to be it have to start it have to start on something, and that's that rock. That rock means Yahawashi. He is that foundation laid before us. Okay, so we're, in a sense, the elect is synonymous with Yahawashi. Okay, they're doing exactly what Yahawashi did on the earth, sacrificing and everything. It talks about that, mentioned that in Hebrews 2. The elect is doing the same things, just on a lesser volume. You see that, if that makes sense? Because they're aligned with Yahawashi. It says, and he hath put a new song in my mouth, even praise into our power. Many shall see it and fear it, and shall trust in Yahawashi. So going back, just to close out, it says, but the continuing in Revelations 14:3, and no man can learn that song, right? Because this is not just for anybody. Okay, it can't, no, not anybody can just go tend to the vineyard. Could everybody be a watchman? No. In that vineyard, no. You have to have specific men that will be be watching it in those vineyards, man. Okay, can't hire everybody. Okay, and you see that in Esau's society and his jobs and everything. You can't hire everybody. Everybody's not fit for the job. But the 144,000, which were redeemed from the earth. Okay, when you go into I'm gonna keep reading. These are they which were not defiled with women, right? Doctrines and philosophies, for they are virgins, right? They are pure and made without spot or blemish. Okay, just like what Yahawashi, he was the Lamb, perfect, without spot or blemish. Okay, he had no filthiness in him. Okay, it says, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb. When you go to Matthew 19, right, and Matthew 19. Let me grab that real quick, just to make sure I'm about to quote the right verse. Matthew 19 and 28, I believe. Yeah, right. These are they that follow Yahawashi in the regeneration. They should sit on 12 thrones, right? Uh, it says, and Yahawashi said unto them, verily I say unto you that you which have followed me in the regeneration and the incarnations, right? When the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory, we also shall sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And every one that have forsaken houses or brethren or sisters or fathers or mothers or wife or children or lands, meaning everything a man possesses, for my name's sake, for his reputation's sake, shall receive an hundredfold and shall inherit everlasting life. But many that are first shall be last, and the last shall be first. And that's how the story goes. Okay, because it says, these are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. These were redeemed from among men. Now they're redeemed from among men. Real quick, let me grab this Micah 7. And it says, woe is me, for I am as when they have gathered the summer fruits. We read about the summer fruits in the manner and customs. All right, the summer fruits, because just like lambs, when you talk about the lamb, all right, we bring this out often, right? Lambs are born in the spring, okay? Lambs are born in the spring, like Yahawashi was born in the spring. He is that lamb, right? So also the fruit, that fruit is tended to when it talks about when the leaves fall. All right, as soon as the leaves fall, right, when you got fall from like August, October, well, really like September, October, all the way up until like November, December, right? All these months right there, and then those months are used to prep, and then and then the manifestation comes in the springtime. Okay, and it says up until the summer. It says, woe is me. That's why the watchman would tend to the vineyard throughout the whole entire summer. It says, woe is me. The definite instruction is me. For I am as when they have gathered the summer fruits. As the grape gleanings of the vintage, there is no cluster to eat. My soul desired the first my soul desired the first striped fruit, right? And that's what Yahweh BAHASHAM Yahawashi requires, the first fruit, the first of its kind. And that's even in our law. All right, to give the first of its kind is usually the best. Well, not usually, it is the best of its kind. Okay, it says the good man, which Yahawashi is, we read in 1 Corinthians, he is the first fruits. All right, of what the elect is going to be. All right, or he's the first fruit, or becoming, however you want to put it. Okay, because it's already took place. We're just living it out. It says the good man is perished. out of the earth, and there is none upright man among men. So that's when we go back to Revelation 14:4, it talked about these were redeemed from among men. We're redeemed from the unrighteous man, the ones that are not upright. It says the good men is perished out of the earth, and there is none upright among men. They all lie and wait for blood. They hunt every man his brother with a net. We're redeemed from them and that mindset and that concept. Okay, it says that they may do evil with both hands. Earnestly the prince asketh, and the judge asketh for a reward. And the great man, he uttereth his mischievous desires, so they wrap it up. The best of them is a briar. Woo! See, that's that, and that's what we was talking about in Isaiah 5. It says the best of them is a briar. Okay, the most upright is sharper than a thorn hedge. The day of thy watchman and thy visitation cometh. Now shall be their perplexity. Right. So you jump back to Revelations 14:4, continuous. I'm gonna read that part again. It says, these were redeemed from among men, right? Unrighteous men, being on that mindset, being the first fruit unto the Most High and unto the Lamb, right? Because you link when you go to 2nd Ezra 9, 20. Let's start at 20. It says, so I considered the world, and behold, there was peril, right? Danger, because of the devices, the plans, and the plots, and the philosophies, and the doctrines that were come into it. And I saw and spared it greatly, and have kept me a grape of the cluster, and a plant of a great people, right? That grape of the cluster is the elect out of the great people. Let the multitude perish then, which was born in vain, and let my grape be kept. Right, when you go to Wisdom Solomon 3, he have kept near unto himself, roughly paraphrasing. All right, it says, which was born in vain, and let my grape be kept, and my plant, for with great labor have I made it perfect. Right, so he had made it perfect. Now, when I had mentioned, the husbandman, okay, because Yahweh is really the husbandman that tends to that put Yahweh, because Yahawashi is so many ways this is broken down in different contexts, but the particular verse, the chapter that I read, going into the husbandman, Yahweh being a husbandman, and Yahawashi was planted. He's that branch, he's that root, man. Okay, that we stem from. Okay, we're the offspring. We're if you will, like in a sense, like the offspring, if you will, of that root. Okay, we stem from that vine. Okay, we're a branch is an offspring of an extension of where it comes from. Okay, now when you go into, it says, continuing in their mouth, Revelations 14:5, and in their mouth was found no God, for they are without fault before the throne of the Most High. Right, because when you go to 1 John 3:9, they sinneth not. You know, matter of fact, let's close with these. Matter of fact, let me get to James first, and then I get that 1 John. This is James 1:18. It says, of his own will begot he us with the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his creatures. And Lord willing, we are a part of that number. Okay, the sincere brothers that truly do this thing for truth and sincerity. This is St. John. Let me go to St. John 1 first, and then we'll close with 1 John. St. John 1:12. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of the Most High, even to them that believe on his name, which were born not of blood, nor the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of the Most High. And that's what it comes down to, the spirit of Yahawashi, the ones you cannot, he said, you cannot worship him but by spirit and in truth. Okay, he loveth none but him that dwelleth in wisdom. 1 Corinthians 1:30 said Yahawashi was made unto us wisdom, sanctification, redemption. So we must abide in the vine. We read it in St. John chapter 15, man. You know what I'm saying? So them first fruits, they're a reflection of Yahawashi. They're doing exactly what Yahawashi is doing, the work. They're sacrificing their bodies. They're tending to the sheep. They're feeding the lambs. Okay, they're tending to the vineyard. Okay, making sure thorns and thistles do not corrupt the minds of the elect, but instead continue to feed the elect. Okay, day in and day out, the daily bread they give the elect. This is what the men of the Lord is doing. This is what Yahawashi did, and this is what he's continually doing to this day. This is First John 3 and let's go straight to the point. 9, whosoever is born of the Most High do not commit sin. Right, what is sin? The transgression of the law. What is transgression of the law? Death. Okay, sin is death. For his seed remaineth in him. Right, and he cannot sin because he is born of the Most High. Right, so he's born of the Most High. He became a new creature. Okay, he's become a new creature. So yeah, man. So the ones that it says the first fruit reflection of Yahawashi, the first fruit is literally a reflection of Yahawashi. They're intertwined, man. That's why the scripture talk about offending the little ones. It'd be better if a millstone hang from his neck, roughly paraphrasing, you know, because you know that's why Yahawashi said, "You do it unto these, you do it unto me." You know. This is Shalom Makim, this GMS day by day. This is Matthew 9 and 37. It says, then said he unto his disciples, the harvest truly is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Pray ye therefore the Lord of the harvest that he will send forth laborers into his harvest. Right. So that's what we read in the manners and customs of Bible lands, that the bigger the vineyard, the more laborers you have to have. And that's what Yahawashi did. He hired laborers to tend to the vineyard. When you read Matthew 20, he hired laborers to tend to the vineyard. And that's what we're doing right now. I'm laboring. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. All right. Because you have different men at different shifts and different hours, tending to the sheep, tending to the vineyard, feeding them, making sure thorns and thistles, the other doctrines and philosophies are not tainting their minds, pushing out the right vibration. Because you have different camps that teach some madness. And that's the thorns and thistles that I'm referring to, different doctrines and philosophies, mainly from these other camps. Okay. So we got to constantly put in the work at all hours whenever the spirit is on us, so that the elect won't sway into that mindset again, man. Okay. And now we're acting as that hedge and as the tower and that watchman on that tower, one watching for the danger that's to come, and one watching to the vineyard still for the danger to come. Okay. So yeah, man. So that's all I had on that, man. It kind of went longer than I had. I wanted to keep it under 30, but it's all good. You know, Lord willing, this quick insert was edifying. And you got to remember, when you continue to read Revelations 14, man, it goes into what I was going into about this vineyard, man. It talks about the thrusting in the sickle, the earth is ripe, the wine pressing. That's what the grape, like it goes into it even more about the judgment of the things and the people that are trying to overtake the Lord's vineyard. But this time you're not going to be able to overtake it, because why? He got his hedge of protection around it. He has his watchtower, and he is the husbandman, man. He's the one that's tending to it, okay, with the laborers, okay. So, hey, Lord willing, is edifying. Hey, until next time, again, I want to give all the glory, even the praise and worship to Yahawah, BAHASHAM, Yahawashi, BAHASHAM, HAQADASH. Double honors to our apostle, it was a great millstone, we will teach you in sound doctrine, strong shalom. All right, Mawaf Lababal, strong shalom to the hopeful elect and the rest of large multitude men, children of the Lord have mercy on. Mawaf Lababal, Abba, right? Until next time, shalom, shalom.